Baruch Dayan Ha'emet, we praise the judge of truth. If you have a cell phone, nobody has a cell phone anymore. But anyway, if you have a pager, no, nobody has a pager anymore. They have cell phones. If you have a cell phone, I would turn it off or set it to stun. If somebody's going to call you and they're not going to know you're at a funeral and memorial service, so. Begin with Psalm 121. It's a beautiful weather day outside. And so we are grateful for the gift of life that God has given us. Esai enai el haharim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Al yitein lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yekaka ve'areach belayla. Adonai yishmarcha mikol ra yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmar tzedcha uvoecha me'ata va'ad olam. I lift my eyes to the mountains, from whence cometh my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. The Lord will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your guardian. He is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. He will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. Death has taken our dearly departed Susan Dorfman Jones. Friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Susan's love that united so many people in life and which death cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind, which brought joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all of these and more, we give our thanks to God. We listen once again to the voice of our sacred scriptures from Sefer Tehillim, from the book of Psalms. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator. In light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. And together let us recite the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It is a privilege to call forward a few people to eulogize Susan. First, it is a privilege to call forward Eileen Collins. Eileen is a volunteer at Judson Park for the Jewish program, and she will come and speak about Susan.
We are here today to remember Susan and the special person she was. I met Susan when she was a resident of Judson Park, moving in when her health was compromised and she needed extra assistance. Susan, her beloved husband Bill, and their dear friend Gary began attending the Jewish programming that I led. They were all devoted to the religious activities at Judson Park, coming to the Passover Seders, the high holiday services, and the Hanukkah celebrations. They were there at the monthly late afternoon Shabbat services, followed by Shabbat dinner together as a community in a private dining room. When they first attended, I will always remember what Bill said, introducing himself first, then Susan. He spoke with such love and tenderness, indicating that theirs was a very special marriage, filled with many careers and adventures, living in different cities and countries, but always being a strong and loving team. He mentioned that their 3 sons and the rest of their family and the love they shared that was for all of them. He also indicated that he felt fortunate that he had married Susan and that they had shared decades of devotion to each other. He spoke of Susan's expertise as she worked with several antique stores, her personal passion. It was a wonderful tribute that any woman would have loved to hear from her lifelong companion. Susan herself was limited physically when I met her, but she maintained a sweet demeanor, a pleasant disposition, and enjoyed spending time at the Jewish activities. She knew the Hebrew prayers and melodies, participating when she could. Bill was a very devoted husband at Judson many days each week, spending time with Susan, just happy to be with her. He planned a special birthday celebration just a short time ago with family and friends. He told me he felt certain that Susan knew what was happening, enjoying being with everyone. I am sure memory of that will always be treasured by the entire family. Also with us today is Bridget Allen, who assisted in Susan's care, beginning in 2006. She continued to be a caring and attentive through the years at Judson Park. Bill told me that originally she cared for Susan, but then she cared for him as well, and became an invaluable part of the family. I would be remiss if I did not mention that Gary was an active part of Susan's life as well, doing what he could do to make her comfortable and make her life meaningful as a close friend of Susan and Bill. Gary even served as a guest speaker at one of our Shabbat services with a presentation that joined his Christian faith and Judaism, memorable for all of us who attended. Recently, Bill had asked me if he and Gary could continue to attend the Jewish activities, even when Susan could no longer do so. I know that this shows their devotion to Susan, knowing she would be so pleased by their continued support and attendance. Susan will always be a part of us, with our fond memories keeping her in our hearts and minds. Kein Yehi Ratzon.
Kein Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. To those words spoken as a prayer, let us say Amen. And it's a privilege now to call for Bill to speak about his dear wife, to be followed by Tim, the son, is going to talk for the that whole generation.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Be careful here.
Guten Mittag. Good afternoon. I've been doing a lot of reading the past week, reading dozens and dozens of love letters between myself and my beloved Susie during the 2 years leading up to our marriage in September 1960. Only 2 months ago, we celebrated our 59th wedding anniversary. And as Eileen noted, just 6 weeks ago, we celebrated Susan on her 80th birthday, with sons, family, and friends gathered at Judson Park. Susan's memory still is within my heart. I'm very happy I saved the letters in a desk drawer to relive her love and devotedness when hand in hand we walked our journey of life. During those 59 years, her affection, good counsel, and daily help were my sustenance. Death has taken her from my side, but her memory will live in me forever. In my young life, The joy and companionship she gave me was what I had dreamed about. I married back in 1960 a spirited, outspoken, creative, lovable, and very supportive partner. Over the past few days of remembrance with family and friends, a couple of descriptions of Susie's creative personality will be truthfully familiar. She was called a force of nature by one, and a woman offering unfiltered thoughts by another. One person said she was just a force, that nature didn't have anything to do with it. Together, the journey we shared had some bad days, but many good ones. There were failures, but many successes. Sadness sometimes, but overall, happiness. Challenges and at times fierce determination added up to a good, positive relationship. Most important, there was as much love as possible on this journey we call life, on a planet where love is often in short supply. We both had varied and satisfying careers, but Susan would agree with me that the most important achievement of our lives was the privilege of living in a home where 3 sons, Jeff, Eric, and Tim, were growing up. Susie shared with me 3 principal life goals. 1, to make ourselves happy with the choices we made in our lives and as love blossomed, while also supporting and giving to persons and communities where we lived. 2, to bring children into the world who will carry on from us good and meaningful lives. 3, to see those sons of ours and their families work together over the years to stay in touch, to fight among themselves as much as they want, but to share a love for each other. Susan, I will remember you when I hear the words of composer Walter Marx to music sung by Sammy Davis Jr. The song is you, Susan, I've Got to Be Me. The opening lyrics, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, whether I find a place in this world or never belong, I gotta be me, I've gotta be me. What else can I be but what I am? The love we shared shall never die. O Lord, remember the soul of my beloved wife. Grant her perfect rest in your keeping. May her reward be peace. Ik heb te lief. I love you, Susan.
And also to those words spoken as a prayer, let us say Amen.
Thank you all for coming. I'm not speaking for all my brothers, but I think I share a lot of the same feelings. And I'd start by saying it's a shame that the people, most of you gathered here, who knew her in this portion of her life didn't necessarily know the truly extraordinary woman she was. Because growing up with that force is an experience that has molded the 3 of us into, I think, truly unique people. She was a woman who, for all of her life, strove and wanted and was razor sharp smart. And yet she always found a way to somehow, even undermining herself, succeed through every struggle she had. And she struggled, but she didn't hide the struggle. It was, as my father said, as unfiltered a person as I've ever met, and that was both remarkably refreshing and occasionally challenging. And she's in many ways been gone for a long time, because that heart that was so strong and that brain that wouldn't stop, that hasn't been there for a while, which has of course been a tragedy. But I see it. I see it in my nephews and my niece. And even if they didn't know her in that way, the ability to hit back, it's remarkable to see it. And every one of them carries it. And every one of us carries it. And we can lament some of the things that happened in our lives, and we can lament her passing. But her presence is unstoppable. And I do wish I know she's in peace now. And I think her whole life she wanted to be at peace. And she desperately wanted to be loved. And I think she would be so pleased to know how loved she was and how much love we carry for her. Her life ultimately was a remarkable success. And it's a real tribute to her. We will all miss her, and we will all carry her forward.
And let us say amen to those words as well. Amen. We gather to remember the life and pay tribute to the memory of your dear Susan. As Bill said, and also Eric recalled, she was a force and a force of nature. Now Tim has said the same thing as well. Highly intelligent, quick-witted, funny. Also, she was crafty. She knitted, she did crochet, she was very creative. She loved antiques. Every summer, when the boys were growing up, took a family vacation. And as would happen in those days, it was a family vacation. It wasn't air conditioning, and you just roll down the windows and you just go. And inevitably they would stop at antique shops because she loved antiques. And so this is before Child Protective Services was called, or the fear of Child Protective Services was called at every little thing. And, you know, Jeff was remembering how they would come back from a vacation and there would be furniture filling the car, right? So there's not much room for anybody to sit. And there would be a desk, and either Eric would be in the middle or somebody would be in the middle of this desk as they're coming back from vacation. You know, you just squeeze in. And you know how to pack, right? No, these are very important things, which is absolutely fantastic. Also, over the many years, she held communication jobs in radio and print. And considering what has been said about her, in terms of her wit and her sharp mind, and also, I would imagine, at times, sharp tongue, I was reminded of a teaching in Sefer Bamidbar, which is the book of Numbers. And there are 5 books in the 5 books of Moses. The 4th book is Numbers. And in chapter 30, we're reminded of a very important concept in human behavior, namely what we promise or what we vow to God. And in chapter 30 of Numbers, verse 2, Moses spoke to the heads of the Israelite tribes, saying, "This is what the Lord has commanded. If a person makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath imposing an obligation on himself, he should not break the pledge. He must carry out all that has crossed his lips." Vows are often made in times of distress, and the motive is to secure God's help. Or a vow might be expressed as an expression of gratitude for divine assistance. This biblical injunction advises that we should be careful what we promise to God, either in desperation or in gratitude. The rabbis of old broadened this concept to apply not only to promises made to God, but to promises we make to others. We should think before we speak. We should be cautious because our words are important and are meaningful to others. We should not toss around words loosely because whether through voice or print, and that includes all sorts of social media, young people, right? People are held accountable for their words, or they should be. An unnamed Torah commentator bemoaned the fact that a person has but one mouth. He said it's a pity that prayer and words which praise God and express gratitude to God must come out of the same orifice that is used for ordinary conversation, which is probably a polite way of saying ordinary conversation, gossiping, untruths, vulgar speech that people speak. And he went on to say, one would hardly use food utensils to gather up the garbage. Thus, we should strive to maintain our tongues in a state suitable for communication with God. She was born in New York City. Her parents, Joseph and Sarah Dorfman, both of blessed memory. She was the elder of two. Her brother Mark, not able to attend. He's in North Carolina, but he is ably represented and lovingly represented by his wife Lynn, and one of their daughters, Jocelyn, is here. Eleanor was unable to attend. And Bill said that when they met, he was working at the student newspaper at Syracuse University, and this ravishing young woman walked in. And I saw pictures. Those are some great pictures. Wow, he said. I mean, really wow. And he was, smitten right away, as guys are, especially when you're younger, right? That. And they began dating. They dated. And they were married just a couple of years later, probably less than a couple of years later, September 18th, 1960. And they shared a loving marriage of 59 years. As we all know, if we're married, there are great times of joy and there are very, very difficult times. And some of them are not even of our doing. They're just very, very difficult times. Blessed with 3 children, Jeff and Mary Ellen, Eric, Mary Catherine, Tim, Mary Ellen. The first one is 2 words and the last one is 1 word. Mary Ellen, I don't know what your family was thinking when they named you with 1 word. Should be 2 words, I guess. Or maybe that's a family argument, right? And 5 grandchildren. Nate, Josh, Ben, Tim, and Caroline. Caroline's in New Zealand for the year. And Tim and Mary Ellen, 1 word, were in New Zealand visiting Caroline, and they just schlepped back from New Zealand just to get here. That's a 29-hour door-to-door. I mean, that's a long time. And that was just to Boston. You guys must have been in Boston for about 4 or 5 hours, just changing luggage and, right? By the way, you guys look fantastic. And you don't look like you traveled like 30 hours. 45. But who's counting? 45 hours? Well, it is the kind of thing that, if we can, we do for our loved ones, because as we move on in life, you get together for, you hope, weddings, but you get together for funerals. And if you miss these opportunities, you miss a lot, because it's just one of the few times people get together. Even though it's for a funeral, Susan would be happy to know that you're together, and hopefully giving each other the requisite amount of grief that siblings and cousins do. You should hug and kiss one another, support one another, console one another. After beginning to struggle with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, it's been many, many years. Bill has a partner, Gary, and Gary's been a very tremendous support during these last few years as well. Susan breathed her last on Sunday night, the 10th, and now her soul is at peace. It's a time of rest, and there's no more pain or deterioration. There's just rest and wholeness and peace. Her soul is returning to God and to be with the souls of her family, her friends, the ancestors of our people. And we learn this in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 7. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. Her soul returns to God, and God will take care of her soul. Judaism talks about this as Olam Haba, the world to come. Olam Haba is not a place. This is a place here. Olam Haba is a time. It's an eternal time where God will take good care of her soul. And one day when you go, no one's in a hurry, but when you go, your soul will be with hers as well. That's a Jewish belief. Your memories are filled to overflowing with thoughts of your dear Susan, your dear Susie. She is gone from life, and we give thanks to God for this gift of life. 80 doesn't seem like it's very old anymore, and we would have hoped for many more years in health. If it's not going to be health, and it's not going to be ability to have conversations, and then we are just thankful for the time that we had. And as you think of her, you should be kinder and more thoughtful of others. You should probably go do a little bit of antiquing. Learn how to knit or crochet if anybody has that propensity. And, do these things in her loving memory. For only through the deeds which we perform can the world be compensated for her loss. And so we conclude with words from the first chapter of the book of Job. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. The Lord hath given, the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord, and let us say Amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, yimru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. May God, who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, cause peace to rain down upon us, upon all Israel, and upon the soul of our dearly departed Susan Dorfman Jones, and let us say Amen. Please rise for the El Malei Rachamim prayer. Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of Susan Jones. For you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, O God, are with us, a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our life, our hope in eternity. El male rachamim, shochen bamromim, hametzeh menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashchina, im kedoshim utohorim, kezohar ki amasirim, et nishmat Susan Dorfman Jones, שהלכה לעולמה, בעל הרחמים, יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה. ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Susan Dorfman Jones. She has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. May those who mourn the loss of Susan find comfort in the hope that though the dust returns to the earth as it was, the spirit returns to God who gave it. Death is not the end. Those we love have passed through the gateway of the grave into the peace of life eternal. We know that all of us must tread the same path, though we know not when the hour may come. Let us so live that the coming of that hour shall find us unafraid. May our deeds do honor to the memory of our beloved, whom you, O God, have taken to yourself. Trusting in your wisdom and loving kindness, we sanctify and praise your name as we recite the Kaddish prayer for Susan. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach chirutei v'yamelich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye l'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imeru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah muvarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha barichu. Le'elah min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'alma v'yimiru amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shmaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimiru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimiru amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. Lech ki shilachcha Adonai, go your way, for the Lord has called you. Lech v'Adonai ya'imach, go your way, and may the Lord be with you. V'halach lefanecha tzidkecha, kavod Adonai yasfecha. May your righteousness go before you, and may the glory of God receive you. Would everyone who is here please repeat these words after me, speaking them to the mourning family. May God console you with all who mourn in Zion and Jerusalem. Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch she'avelei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. Please be seated. The family has asked that if you care to make donations in Susan's loving memory, please consider first among the places you would donate to the National Holocaust Museum. And in a few minutes, when we adjourn here, we're heading over to Jeffrey and Mary Ellen, heading over to their house, 135 Valencia Circle in Orange. We'll be there noshing and gathering together, with the mourner's meal until 8 p.m. And then again tomorrow, the family will be there from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We'll say Kaddish when we get back to the house, and our congregation will recite Kaddish for Susan for the next month, whether any family members are able to attend or not. Every Friday night at 7:30 is the service, and Wednesday afternoon about 5:15 with the Hebrew school kids. They need reps on the Kaddish. And then on Sunday morning, religious school kids will say Kaddish for Susan too. She's going to get a lot of Kaddishes in the next month, and it's to learn the prayer and to say it for somebody is it's a mitzvah, and they're getting the weight of it on their shoulders, the obligation to do that. This concludes our service here at the funeral home.